Welcome to today's lesson. So today we're going to be looking at the second conditional. So we are going to be looking at the second conditional. So the second conditional is a structure used to talk about unreal situations. So things that are not real and things that you imagine. So for things that you imagine, you can use the second conditional. All right. So if I had to ask you, what would you do if you had $1,000,000? So think of the first thing that you would do if you would have $1,000,000. Okay, so some people might buy a house, some people would buy a car. So these are all situations which are unreal because unfortunately you don't have $1,000,000. But I made you imagine if you did have the $1,000,000, you get to think of all the things that you could do. All right? So the second conditional can be used, and this is the function. All you have is if plus the past simple. So the past simple is simply eat, ate, sing, sang, walk, walked. So that is the past simple. Plus would plus the verb. So let's look at an example. So the first way that you can use the second conditional is with your imagination. So something that's not real. So for example, you are a person. So you are a human. You are not a bird. But if you had to imagine that you were a bird, I would fly freely. So if I asked you if you were a bird, what would you do? So you could say, I would fly freely to Europe. So we've got if, were, past simple, would, I would, and then the verb. So your dongsa, I would fly freely to Europe. So that is the first function of how you can use your second conditional. So let's look at the second way that you can use your second conditional. So you can also use your second conditional for things that are hypothetical. So something that's hypothetical is something that can happen, but it is not happening right now. All right? So something that's hypothetical, it's something that can happen. So it is very possible. But right now, it's a situation that is not that way. So for example, in my hand, I only have one apple. So I only have one apple. But I imagine if I were to have maybe 10 apples, I would bake an apple pie. So this is hypothetical. It is something that I can do because I can bake an apple pie, but only if I were to have 10 apples or if I had the 10 apples. All right, so this is the second function. So first one is imagination. Second one is something that is hypothetical. So for example, if it were to rain, I would use my umbrella. So right now it is very sunny outside, but if it were to rain, I would use my umbrella. So it's something that is not happening now, but it can happen. All right? So the third way that we can use our second conditional is when you want to give advice. All right? So when you want to give advice, so let's say your friend left their phone on the bus. So whenever you give the advice using the second conditional, you act like the situation is happening to you. So your friend left their phone on the bus and you would say, if I were you, all right? If I were you, I would run after the bus. I would run after the bus. Or maybe if your friend had a stomach ache, so let's say your friend is sick and they have a stomach ache, you can say, if I were you, I would go to the doctor. So if I was the one that had the stomach ache, I would go to the doctor. So that is you giving your friend advice on what they can do based on their problem. All right? So the function of the second conditional stays the same in the imaginary situation, hypothetical, and in advice. It is always if, past simple, would plus your domsa or your verb. All right, so I think we all have that. So this is all you have to remember. So whenever you want to create a second conditional sentence, you've got your if subject. So the subject can be I, we, they, and then you are going to have your simple past or your past simple verb, were, eat, ate, walked. And then if I were famous, then you say I would live in the US. So whatever the subject, the verb form is were and will never be was. All right, so the verb form has to stay as were and not was. All right. So here we have an example. So if I went to Paris, so this is my situation. So this is something that is hypothetical because I can go to Paris. So if I went to Paris, I think the thing that I would do is I would visit the Eiffel Tower. So this is my condition, and the consequence is I would visit Eiffel Tower. So maybe, for example, if I were thirsty, so if I was thirsty, what would I do? Perfect. So all you say is I would drink some water. So I would drink some water or some Coke. So anything that has to, or something that is going to help you with your thirst. So if, simple past, would, and the base form of the verb. So you can use it for situations that are unreal, imaginary, or to give advice. All right, so these are all the other verbs that you would use. So if I went to Paris, I would buy maybe a croissant. If I went to Paris, I would eat maybe spaghetti. And if I went to Paris, I would take lots of pictures. So, and so forth. So here we are going to check. You are going to try and give me 3 things that you would do if this situation happened to you. So if my friend kept me waiting in the movie or in front of the movie theater, so your friend was going to meet up with you to watch a movie and they are late. So if they are late, what would you do? First one is I would call him or her. So I would call him or her, or I would go back home. So I would go back home, or I would get into the movie theater without him or her and just watch the movie on my own. So because of this situation, these are the things that I imagine I would do. And the last one, you can create your own. So if your friend kept you waiting, what would you do? So let's check if we all understand how to use the second conditional. All right, so we have this sentence. So if my friend kept me waiting, I would call her or him. So I would call her or him. All right, question number 1. Which sentence is a condition? So which sentence is a condition? So the thing that you are imagining could happen to you. Yes, so if my friend kept me waiting is the condition. So which word expresses the condition? So which word shows you? So one word that shows you this is a condition. All right, if. So if is the word that people use, or if is the word that shows that something is a condition. All right, so if I miss the bus, I will be late. So that is the condition. For me to be late, I have to have missed the bus. And which sentence is a consequence? So the condition is if my friend kept me waiting, what is the thing that you would do? So what is the consequence of your friend making you wait? Perfect. So I would call her or him. I would call her or him. All right, great job. So I think we all have an understanding. So we are going to test some more for some understanding before we get to do our worksheet. So this is the first question. If I were a clown, so if you were a clown, what would you do? All right. So maybe I would make people laugh. So that is something that I would do if I were a clown. I would make people laugh. Number two, if I were in Paris, so if I were in Paris right now, what do you think I would do? So I would see the Eiffel Tower. So this is one of the things that I would be doing. So I would see the Eiffel Tower. Next one. If I had some snacks, so if I had some snacks, what do you think I would do? Maybe I would eat them all, or I would share them with my friends, or I would share them with my friends. Next one. If I were a mechanic, so a person that gets to fix cars, if I were a mechanic, what do you think I would do? Great. I would repair damaged cars. So I would fix the damaged cars. All right. So you are going to receive a worksheet. And on the worksheet, you are going to try and complete the sentences using the conditionals. So you can create a sentence using any of the conditionals that you would like based on what the sentence is saying. All right. So I look forward to reading all your answers on your worksheet and have a great day. Bye.